Morning, y'all. How's everybody doing this morning? I hope you're well. I've been struggling to keep up this content stuff, and here I am. And Linda, I'm back on my bullshit. I thought I'd talk to you about my grandmother Borawski. She passed a few years ago, probably, I don't know, in the 90s. Grandma Karen would know. My sister would know because she has a freaking mind like a steel trap. Today is not washed hair day, so just deal with it because it's slicker than grease. But I'm cool as a cucumber in a bowl of hot sauce like MCA. Look it up. Beastie Boys, check your head. So yeah, Grandma Borawski. She was quite a character. It's my mom's, not my mom's, my dad's mom. I have fond memories of going to visit her. She was the one that would call me Scotty in front of all my skateboarder friends when they were calling me Randy. And then later on, they would make fun of me and call me Scotty because she never called me Randy. I was little Scotty. And so I would go over to her house and spend the night. And if you've ever seen the paintings Blue Boy and Pinky, she had those in her living room, kind of juxtapositioned. She had an Infant of Prague, which is a Catholic ceramic statue of Jesus as a baby, and during different Catholic seasons, Advent, those type of things. I'm not Catholic, so look that up. You put different candles out. And one of the stories about Grandma Borawski was a story my stepmother told me about when they were cleaning the house out after she had passed. So Grandma Karen went to a priest or some religious figure and said, hey, we have this Infant of Prague. It's a ceramic Jesus. If you Google Infant of Prague statue, it's a ceramic baby Jesus with the crown, and it's interesting. So she called this religious figure a priest, or maybe her pastor in her church, and said, hey, I have this Infant of Prague. What do we do with it? You know, do we donate it or whatever? And the guy just simply said, throw it in the trash. So I thought that was hilarious. So there was the Infant of Prague on display at all times. She had one of those plastic runners so that you didn't dirty up the floor when you came into her house. And most of my memories are of her. If you walk into her house, it was like a bar on the left and a dining room behind the bar, and then a living room on the right where the Pinky and Blue Boy were on the wall. And then when you keep walking, you walk into her kitchen, and to the left was a sink, fridge, and then a small table. Kind of 3 people could sit at it at the most. And she would be sitting in the corner. She would be smoking a cigarette. She had like a 6-pack of Fort Schuyler beer. If those from upstate New York are watching, you're probably familiar with Fort Schuyler. I'm not sure if it's anything that anybody would drink down here. Although at the Royal American, they have Genesee beer, which is from upstate New York. So warm 6-pack glass bottles of Fort Schuyler, sort of like the Red Stripe beer, like a little brown bottle. She'd have a pint glass, warm beer in it, salt and pepper in the beer, and smoking a cigarette, and holding court from that seat. Also, Grandma Borawski, her and my grandfather were 100% Polish. And so she could cook Polish stuff, but she also, and my dad was also very close with a bunch of Italian families. There's tons of Italian families, Italian restaurants in upstate New York that are fantastic still to this day. So she could cook Italian. She could cook spaghetti. Specifically, I remember her making homemade pizza. And she would make this pizza, And you know, if you've ever seen 16 Candles, where one of the aunts or grandmothers are cooking breakfast and she's got a cigarette and it's the ash is about to fall in. This is Grandma Borawski, smoking and cooking. So she fed us fat and happy. It was great. She's a great cook. We had good times when we stayed over there. But the funny thing about her and her smoking, and it literally being a smoke-filled house from her smoking cigarettes, was her food was delicious. And then you would take it home and say you took home a couple slices of pizza from Grandma Borowski's house. You'd get it to our smoke-free home. You'd open up the wrapping, and you know, some people like cold pizza. I like cold pizza from time to time. You'd open it up, take a bite, and it tasted like you were eating an ashtray. It was hilarious. It's like, this food is so good. And then you get it back to your house and it tastes like an ashtray. It's funny. Endearing thoughts about my grandmother Borawski. I think a lot of the colloquialisms, the Randall Charlesisms, the you peoples, and the alligator mouse and the parakeet asses, I think she was the one that kind of drove that and, you know, imparted that skill into my dad. And she was just a very interesting lady. I also remember she used to, when she would get dressed up, like to go to church or whatever, she'd put on this bright red lipstick. It was amazing. And they also, my grandfather and her, had a couple of German Shepherd dogs. They had one who was older, I guess, maybe had been there when my dad was growing up. You know, the time is twisted because I was younger, you know, when I was hanging out there. But she had one called Maui, and then ended up breeding it, and I think the son was Eric. So they had Maui, which I'm not sure how that was spelled, and Eric. And those dogs were not really very friendly. They're beautiful German Shepherd dogs, but like, she basically, when people came in the house, had to put the dogs up, you know. And they kind of stayed in the backyard, and then they came in, and I don't know that they got the run of the house ever, because I always saw them behind a fence. And then when they were out in the backyard, you know, I could go down and play in their cellar. And a cool thing about the cellar was that Grandma Borawski could make the mess out of pickles. Like, she canned dill and sweet pickles, made her own pickles, and had them stacked up down there, and they were delicious. So any chance I got to go down there and grab some sweet pickles, because I love me some bread and butter and some sweet pickles, any chance I got to go down there and say, Grandma, can we have some of these pickles? I would go down there and grab a jar of pickles. I have no idea where I'm going with this story, just telling you memories of my childhood. I've got a few more stories that I want to vet with some high school friends. I also want to tell you, do not forget tomorrow, Kenny George Band, Easy Shakes, and the Water Kickers will be at Art Bar. Show starts at 9 here in Columbia. I would love to see y'all. And, you know, I'm going to reiterate, it's gratitude month for me. So don't be a stinker. Call people up. Tell them you love them. Tell them, you know, what you're thankful for. That's kind of part of what I'm doing here, is just expressing some of my life. And I'm thankful for those memories growing up and for those people that were in my life. So more stories to come. Hopefully they're still entertaining. I'm going to keep putting them out until, you know, I don't know. I'll just keep putting them out in as I feel led. But today was kind of a stretch, because I was like, man, I've teed myself up with a bunch of stories, and I want to make sure that these continue to be interesting. But I'm getting ideas. Hudson's kind of my executive producer, and he's kind of talking me through some stuff, and you know, helping me vet some non-interesting stuff from the interesting stuff. and the family's helping me. Might be doing a top 5 Randall Charles isms. We'll see. I've got to check that out. Also, I still got some Watch Fox stories on the back burner, and this one that I thought of today from high school, and it concerns like one of the very few times that I was drunk / tipsy in high school, because as I said in my earlier video, it's a candy ass. Didn't really, break some off and get buck wild in high school. Anyways, and I had no game. Like, I really didn't date anyone in high school, and this kind of story is the beginning of me in a relationship. But I have to check with that person to make sure me telling the story is kosher with them. So anyways, y'all have a great day, and I will check you on the flip.